Welcome to the Explainer. Now, you might think the ultimate test for a school's solar system happens when the sun goes down, right? Actually, no. That is a massive misconception. The true, high-stakes reality is that a school's solar system's biggest test isn't nighttime at all, it's daytime solar instability. Today, we're going to break down exactly how to engineer a system that doesn't just completely collapse right in the middle of a school day.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap. First, we'll look at the daytime power threat. Then, calculating baseline energy needs. Third, sizing the cloud buffer. Fourth, why 48 volts matters. And finally, battery chemistry and safety.
Section 1. The daytime power threat, or what I like to call the myth of constant sunlight.
Here's absolutely the biggest mistake DIY builders and honestly even a lot of educational channels make. They size these systems as if sunlight is just this constant, uninterrupted stream of energy. But the reality? Solar panels just do not produce constant power. Period. The actual threat to a classroom doesn't come from total darkness, it comes from short, fast cloud transients and a sudden midday irradiance collapse.
Think about what actually happens in a classroom when a heavy cloud suddenly rolls over the solar array. The panels temporarily underproduce, right? And without adequate buffering, an immediate domino effect triggers on the DC bus. Suddenly, boom, the projector shuts off right in the middle of a lesson. The ceiling fans slow down. The inverter starts screaming with low voltage alarms, and every single laptop in the room just stops charging. In a matter of seconds, classroom productivity and learning abruptly halt. This is the exact high-stakes scenario we have got to engineer our way out of.
Moving on to Section 2, calculating baseline energy needs. This is where we compare standard math versus real-world math.
Let's build the foundation for an off-grid or hybrid classroom operating for a typical 6-hour school day. First up, we measure our continuous load, and we're using actual clamp meters here, of course, not just guessing. Let's say it's 800 watts for things like fans, lighting, laptops, maybe a router. Step 2. We multiply that 800 watts by our 6 operating hours to get 4,800 watt-hours. Now, step 3, this is where a lot of people mess up. An inverter is never 100% efficient. It's essentially paying a heat tax to convert DC battery power into AC output. So assuming roughly 90% efficiency, we have to divide our load by 0.90. This adjusts our true energy requirement up to 5,333 watt-hours. Finally, step 4, we divide that by our 48-volt system architecture to find our required amp-hours.
So the crucial point is, that math leaves us with a baseline of 111 amp-hours. Now, while most generic sizing sources completely stop at this exact number and tell you to just go out and buy a 100 or 120 amp-hour battery, we know better. In a real classroom environment, our engineering work is honestly just getting started.
Section 3. Sizing the cloud buffer and actually surviving that solar collapse we talked about earlier.
Let's look at this next concept and see how it builds our system's resilience. It's called cloud buffering. Basically, this is the practice of using a battery bank's reserve capacity to absorb those rapid solar fluctuations, preventing DC voltage sag when your panels temporarily underproduce. To keep a school running without a single hiccup, having a 20 to 40% extra usable capacity margin isn't just a nice-to-have feature, it is considered a smart, absolutely necessary engineering practice.
So, if we take our baseline of 111 amp-hours and add a healthy 30% cloud buffer, meaning we multiply by 1.3, we get approximately 144 amp-hours. What does this mean for us? Well, to confidently survive daytime solar instability, our practical minimum recommendation lands squarely on a 150 amp-hour battery bank. This extra margin is literally the difference between a seamless school day and a system that just constantly browns out.
Section 4. Why 48 volts matters. Higher voltage means lower current.
And this brilliantly illustrates why a 48-volt architecture is absolutely critical here. Think about it. Pulling an 800-watt load on a 12-volt system demands a massive 67 amps of current. That is practically enough to run a small arc welder. At 24 volts, well, it drops to 33 amps, but at 48 volts, you are pulling a highly manageable 17 amps.
That massive drop to 17 amps directly translates to system safety and stability. You see, current is what creates heat, so by lowering the current, we guarantee cooler wirings inside the classroom. It dramatically reduces voltage drop across the system, allows you to safely use smaller, much more manageable cables, and it significantly boosts your overall inverter efficiency. For serious, continuous educational environments, 48 volts really is the gold standard, for sure.
Section 5. Battery chemistry and safety. Let's talk about executing the build.
When it comes to handling the daily grind of a school environment, battery chemistries are definitely not created equal.
Now, lead-acid batteries might tempt you with a lower upfront cost, but honestly, they are heavy, they have a terrible usable depth of discharge, and they degrade incredibly fast under brutal daily cycling. For a classroom that is operating every single weekday, lithium iron phosphate, or LiFePO, is the undisputed choice. It provides a super high cycle life, a highly stable voltage curve right through the discharge cycle, and it handles partial solar recovery with absolute ease.
But, having the right chemistry means absolutely nothing if physical safety execution is ignored. High-current DC systems generate heat, and mistakes here are very costly. You absolutely must locate your fuses directly at the battery source. Not 3 feet away, not at the inverter, but right at the battery positive to prevent cable fires. Also, cables must be properly crimped and torqued to specification. Loose lugs will quite literally melt terminals and destroy your BMS boards. And finally, adequate ventilation is just non-negotiable. Heat buildup inside a classroom kills inverter lifespans and severely degrades battery efficiency. True reliability is built to survive bad conditions, not just perfect sunlight.
Ultimately, a stable school system is all about having the reserve capacity to outlast the clouds without ever interrupting education. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this to consider. What is the largest daytime load you've ever had to buffer during sudden cloud cover? Was it an entire computer lab, or maybe just a really power-hungry air conditioner? Think about how your own real-world loads align with these buffer calculations. Keep measuring carefully and stay safe out there.